Okay, there we go. Okay, we've started recording now, so thank you all for joining us today. My name is Maria Irshad. I'm with the Park Houston Division. We oversee the Washington Parking Benefit District, and today is our monthly advisory committee meeting. So I'm going to go into the agenda. The first thing we'll do is take roll call. So Melanie, you see we've got our chair, Keith Edgar, vice chair, Mark Fairchild, and our committee member, David Chin, on the line. And then Ms. Stewart and Ms. Rubenstein are not on the call today. We can go ahead and approve the minutes if the committee had a chance to review it. If you don't have any corrections, if you have any corrections, feel free to send it back to us and we can take a vote next time. But if you guys are okay with the minutes, we can take a motion to approve those at this time.
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Thank you, Keith. All in favor?
Aye.
Here we go. All right. Okay, so our first item on the agenda is, let me also, hold on, I'm getting feedback from someone here. Let me just unmute. Let's see. Okay, I also want to recognize Yukari Ramirez Manera with Councilmember Kamen's office. She's on the call today. Of course, we've got some discussion about the WOW Roundabout, which we'll get to in a few minutes. So thank you, Yukari, for joining us today. So we're going to talk about, we're going to get an update from Sergeant Dorton on flock cameras. When he gets on the call, we can always come back to him. We're going to talk about the WOW Roundabout. We've had some discussion over the past few months over this, and I have some updates for y'all as well. We'll give you the metered parking update, the projections, and the actuals. So you'll get the financials. We'll give you an update on our compliance performance in the area, and then we'll take public comment. So for those folks on the call who do wish to publicly address the committee, that would be the time when you could add your public comments. Then we'll have an open forum and adjournment. So thank you again for everyone for joining us today, and let's go ahead and get into flock cameras we'll come back to. So the item that we had first on the, or second to discuss with the committee today is the WOW Roundabout. We know that there are 2 signs that have been kind of destroyed over there, and we've got 2 lighting sculptures that are up but non-functional. And from what I understand, there is supposed to be a 3rd lighting sculpture, which I can't recall now if the sculpture is already ready or if it was never funded. I believe it was never funded.
That's correct.
Okay. So today what I wanted to give y'all an update about is when we started talking about what we can do over here. I understand the committee is interested in funding some of the improvements over there. So I had to kind of do some work in the city because this is now in the city right of way. So it's city infrastructure. I've got to find the department that's responsible, who owns said infrastructure, make sure they're okay with what our thoughts and ideas are, and then develop a plan to move forward. So just to give the committee members an update. So right now, the Washington Parking Benefit District Advisory Committee at the end of fiscal year 23, which was June 30th, just this past June, has about $280,000 in the bank. We anticipate for this fiscal year, another $119,000 that would go into that pot. When we developed the budget for this fiscal year, we put in about $90,000 for projects. So this can be changed. This is what we estimated y'all might do. A vote can always adjust that. What we have right now in our hands is $280,000. That's what is eligible for projects. So looking at the WOW Roundabout, so there's 2 signs that are down, the Camp Logan and the Woodcrest sign, and we're estimating about $10,000 per sign. I think there's been estimates anywhere from $4,000 to $11,000. It's better to go on the higher end so that we can. I'm sorry, I'm just getting some feedback again. Let me see. I'm sorry, I apologize. Okay, so we're looking at about budgeting $10,000 per sign. Of course, if that's not all spent, that just goes back into the Washington PBD fund. For the 2 signs that are down, one has insurance reimbursement tied to it. So one, the Woodcrest one does not. The Camp Logan sign, there is an insurance company on the hook for that. So for the lighting sculptures, and someone, please remind me, because I don't recall the specifics, but I believe the 2 lighting sculptures that are there need probably some electrical updates, and we also need to figure out the monthly electric bill. And then for the 3rd sculpture, was that about $100,000? Is that what I recall hearing, or was it, nobody knows, we don't know?
I think the last estimates were about 150, I think. 150?
Okay. Okay.
From the same artist.
Yes, correct. Okay. All right. So for the electrical work, I really have no idea how to estimate that. We need to get someone to go out there and see what is going on, why. It could be something as simple as no one's paying the light bill. It could be something bigger. I don't know. So we'd have to get an electrician to go out there and take a look at that. I've talked to Public Works, and they are okay with the Washington PBD funding the improvements and for Park Houston to kind of manage that project. And they are also looking into the city contracts that may be available. So, one thing that I do want to, and I should have started this at the beginning, if the city, if Park Houston is going to be managing the work, whatever gets decided by the advisory committee, it's not going to happen quickly. We have a pretty stringent procurement process. So there's 2 ways that we can do it. We can write specs and go through the whole procurement process, which will take time. If I can find a public works contract that has sufficient allocation on it, that we can just get a contractor who's already in the city system and already knows the city ways, because there will be permits required, there will be inspections, city engineer, traffic engineer, all of them are going to have to be involved. So we want to make sure we get a contractor who knows how to do all that. That's why I'm trying to find a public works contract that we can just take some allocation, depending on how much y'all want to fund, and move forward from there. Now, I don't know which way it's going to go yet. The first thing I need is the committee to decide what they want to fund and how much do they want to fund. And so once I know that, then I can go down the route of finalizing the details of how we move forward. And I think I have a hand raised. Michelle, yes. You're muted.
I was emailing back and forth with Houston Public Works after they told us they would not fix the Camp Logan wall. And right. I got in touch with someone from permitting who said we needed an excavation permit. Yeah. Nothing about inspection, nothing about anything else more involved than that. Okay. And I can forward that email to whoever needs it.
You can forward that to me. Melanie, can you drop my email in the chat, please, for me?
Okay.
I have a hard time talking and typing.
Okay, good.
Okay, that would be good to know.
Yeah, we went back and forth with permitting because at first they didn't believe that the city of Houston owns it, and HPW/TDO, and I can tell you names of the people in that department. They're the ones who, quote, took ownership of it, only to say we're not going to fix it.
So I was forwarded that email a few weeks back, and that's where I started talking to my colleagues at Public Works. And so I think I have that history of where Public Works, and it's just, it's an issue of resources and what can be devoted and what can't. And of course, once we told them that the PBD is interested in funding some of it, they're like, oh, well, if someone wants to pay for it, that's always, that gets it's easier to get to a yes then. But, it doesn't mean that we have an easy path forward. I'm not going to say it's a tough path. It's just a little bit more complicated because it's the city doing the work and we have to do things a certain way. So it doesn't happen quickly. So I'm asking for patience from everyone, but I think we can move forward once the committee decides.
I just wonder the insurance, if there's a statute of limitation after a certain point, the insurance will say this claim is over a year old or the accident was over a year ago. We aren't going to honor it. So I just don't know whether insurance works that way.
I'm not sure how it works, but I would be, because it's reimbursement, the insurance has not paid anyone yet. They said, we'll reimburse you for it, right? So we'll just have to get that contact information from the insurance company so that we can put them in touch with our lawyers at City Legal. If we're spending the funds and we want to put it back in the PBD advisory bank account at the end of the day when it comes back.
Okay.
Okay. Bill, yes, thank you. Thank you. Bill Records, you have your hand.
Yes, hello. Just want to warn you that the insurance company's already threatened to close the claim because we haven't done anything. So I have all the contact information. I have an email from the adjuster, but we need to make sure we get in line with them because they are anxious to get away from this liability, I think.
Oh, no, I understand. If you could forward that contact information to me, then we will figure out how to move forward. I think once the city gets involved, the insurance will probably step off a little bit on. They know we deal with insurance when our meters get hit by cars and whatnot, and sometimes it happens quickly, sometimes not so quickly.
All right, we'll get that to you.
Okay, thank you. Miss Marcia Chanel, did I say that right? You have your hand raised, and I think you are still muted. You're muted, sorry. You're still muted, ma'am. There you go.
Okay, I think regarding the inspection, the artist should be involved as far as the electrical for the pretty parts, the statues. It could be that's an entirely different electrical system, maybe solar or something that could go in there to help power those. I think on the four corners, I think there are at least 3 bases. 2 are out, and I think there's 1 base at Camp Logan with no fixture on it. Right. So it needs his attention. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, and let me just chime in here. The artist is involved. He has received the site plans that they designed 10 years ago. He's in the process of working with his lighting design expert to consider all of the options that are available, whether that be solar or tying into the existing electrical boxes that are there, dealing with the conduit runs that go under the public right of way. So he's trying to put together a proposal for us that incorporates all of the anticipated repairs to get the lighting structure back operational, what it would take from a maintenance perspective, as well as, just all of the things that he did the first time around. So he's involved in this, and we're still waiting to hear from him on what that proposal looks like. So we've deferred to him on this this potential, rebuild or revamp of the lighting structures.
Okay. So that's about where we're at now. Committee members, I know that y'all were wanting to fund some of the improvements there. Is this something, I think we should probably wait till we get a proposal on the lighting to even consider that. And the challenge with the lighting is now with the new roundabout there, if they're going to have to excavate under the right of way, I'm concerned that that's going to pose a problem. If we do the signs, particularly the Camp Logan one where you've got the base already there, is that going to be a problem if we do the lighting sculpture later or move forward? No?
That's fine. The lighting sculpture has never been in front of the Camp Logan sign. So our priority now is fix that sign. You don't need to go under any roads to fix our sign. No utilities will be impacted. The lighting sculpture is a nice to have, not a need to have, but I think fixing the wall is more of a need to have.
Okay. So
let me just add on, even on the other wall that's down, the foundation's still there. The all needs to be done as it needs to be cleaned up, and then they can build back, because that one's pretty much completely destroyed. The Camp Logan wall is not completely destroyed. It can be built up from well off the foundation. So there'll be no underground repair requirements on either of the walls. I was on the WOW board when it was the private-public partnership. All those controls are pretty much outdated, and I have no idea about the conduits under the ground. They could be crushed or they may not be. So I know the gentleman mentioned that there'll be some investigation there, but we have to be very careful that we have no idea how much damage has been done or what the reliability of the old control system would be.
Okay. So advisory committee, do y'all have thoughts on Is there any concerns with moving forward on the signs? Do you all want to, does anyone have the original vendor who installed those signs? Do we know who did that? Can anyone fix this? Because I haven't even looked into that.
We don't have the vendor. We have some architectural drawings, but they don't look like construction drawings. We dug back through all the WOW paperwork, and all we've got are some schematics and sketches and dimensions. Luckily, the two that are there remaining are exact replicas, except for the names on the neighborhoods of what needs to be rebuilt. So really, I mean, I know the city may not want to do this, but at the end of the day, if you just take some really good measurements, you could rebuild both of those signs based on the two that are still standing out there. The one for Rice Military, and then the other one at Crestwood.
I believe that the Dietering Company would be a good resource for the raw material and probably has resources to get it done.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody's ever been out to their site, but I use them for the rocks for my flower bed that when I had to rebuild some things in my house. They had everything. It is, you know, certainly would have the contacts to get it done and the material.
Okay. Okay. We can reach out to them to see if we can get a quote, and then I can come back to the advisory committee and let y'all know how much it's going to cost, so that we can just decide if we want to move forward with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that before we decide to move forward, I think we should see a couple of quotes on what this is going to cost to get taken care of.
Okay.
I thought we'd already sent you guys the quotes
Uh,
that Bill gathered up.
Yeah, we got
Okay.
a bunch of quotes. Again, they do vary from very low to very high. The question always is, you know, it's kind of a handyman quote for some of them, and I warned those vendors that they'd be dealing with the city, and they still went ahead and quoted. But the quote that was about $10,000 or $11,000 that you should have was from a pretty reliable vendor that I checked out, and they've done a lot of work in the city. But again, I'd welcome if you have better contractors, or we can hook into a Houston Public Works contractor that can do that work. The Houston Public Works, when we were dealing with them, they had no interest in helping us in that regard. So you've got a lot more power than we had when we were trying to get it done.
Can someone forward those quotes to me? So we'll reach out to them.
I can.
Yeah, well, yeah, and actually I just sent them yesterday to CC Scott, who works for Letitia Plummer. So
She
I'll
called.
just,
She was going to
okay,
send.
I'll just send you that email.
Yeah.
I'll CC you, Bill. You'll recognize all of them.
Okay, so let us do a little bit of that work, committee, and we can come back to you. And at least maybe just look at the signs for now and deal with the lights later on. Does that sound like a good plan for the committee?
Yeah, I mean, in principle, I don't have a problem proceeding, you know, with this sign replacement, particularly if we have the option of pursuing, you know, an insurance reimbursement on the other side of this for at least one of them.
One of them would be insured. And then I also do, I think this is, I'm not sure. Have the signs been hit 2 or 3 times? It's been multiple times.
The Camp Logan, this is the first time the Camp Logan sign has been impacted.
Okay.
I think the Woodcrest sign has taken a couple of hits over the years, which is why it's basically just a pile of rocks right now, or a pile of rubble.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's a concern going forward. The traffic flow through that intersection probably lends itself to that sign being at risk, more so than any of the other three signs around the traffic circle. So that is also something that we should take into consideration.
I do feel the traffic has slowed down a little bit around the circle since they put in the raised crosswalks.
I would agree.
So I'm hopeful that should we repair both signs, that the new structure of the roundabout will kind of, we can hedge our bets that the signs will survive. But I just wanted to point that out, that these have been hit multiple times, so we just want to be cautious. Okay,
Yeah, I
so
think the Woodcrest sign is the one at greatest risk.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Okay, the other option that we also have for dealing with the lighting in the future is also, you know, partnering with TERS 5. So that was going to be one of the collaborations that I might look into, depending on what the needs are. But that we can hold off on for now. We'll wait to hear from the artist. In the meantime, we'll work on the quotes for the 2 signs and send that over to y'all, and with a timeline, maybe see what we can do.
Yeah, I was going to, Maury, I was going to say that Stacy, my wife, has talked to Sherry Wiesner at TERS 5 about this, and Sherry has essentially said that she's not really at the liberty of investing in public art, which is what she considers the lighting sculptures. And I understand that. I mean, it's an infrastructure TERS.
Yeah.
At the same point in time, I've received, and I'm sure Bill can confirm this. I think that Graystar was interested in being part of the roundabout project in some way, shape, or form during its implementation. And I think they may be interested in being part of the fabrication and installation of the third lighting structure as it pertains to, you know, the beautification of the roundabout as an entrance to both the Elan and the Westcott. So we've got a couple of contacts there that we're in the process of trying to reach out to see if that might be something that they might also be interested in partnering with the Parking Benefits District in trying to figure out a way to fund that lighting sculpture.
Okay, sounds good. Yukari has her hand raised. Yukari, you have a question?
Hi, good afternoon. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for coming together, and as we continue to find a solution on this. I know Michelle, Bill have been very engaged on the Camp Logan wall. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for this great collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you for joining our call today, Yukari. We appreciate it. Okay, so my marching orders are to look into the quote, see what a timeline may be to getting those signs repaired, work something out with the insurance so that we don't lose that funding for at least the Camp Logan sign. And then I will wait, Mark, for y'all to get that artist's scope for the lighting. And then we could decide that later on. We'll put a little bit more pressure on the signs.
Yeah, I will reach out to Tim, which is the artist. I would anticipate within the next 10 days, 10 to 14 days, he should have something for us. So it would be something that we would be able to discuss at our next meeting.
Okay.
Because that's the big elephant in the room. We just don't know what that's going to cost.
Yeah,
I mean, I think the signs in principle, you know, Keith or David, tell me if I'm wrong. I think those are something that we can certainly bite off, and that does, you know, add some beautification to that roundabout and much needed maintenance to that roundabout too. So,
Michelle, you have a question.
Yes, so when the HPW TDO decided not to fix the wall, Bill and I discussed our next steps, and we had a 2-pronged approach. Visit with you guys, the Washington Parking Benefit District, to see if you could help, and go to City Council and speak for 3 minutes and plead with the City Council to get HPW to change their mind. I don't want to do that. I'm not a fan of public speaking, but I'll do it if I have to. But do I have to do that, or have you guys decided to move ahead and help us fix this?
So the advisory committee has to take a vote in order to expend funds. And I need to get the quotes and give them a timeline so they can make a vote. So give us a little bit of time to do that. And then the committee can vote. Now, one of those signs is going to be reimbursed. So that should make it less of a you know, we're not spending as much. We're spending half as much to fix 1 sign versus fixing 2 signs. So that worked in benefit. But I don't want to say yes, they're definitely going to do it, or no, they're definitely not going to do it, because it's the committee's decision and they need to vote on it. But they can't vote unless I give them the information.
Okay.
But Michelle, Michelle, I'm not quite, like I said, unless somebody else here disagrees with me, in principle, I'm okay, assuming that, Maria comes back to me and says, I've talked to the city attorneys and the city attorneys are willing to go and reclaim the money from the insurance company. They're willing to be engaged in that process because I think what you said before is because HBW didn't want to engage, that the insurance that the attorneys were not going to go after the insurance company. If HPW is saying they'll do the work through Park Houston, and then the attorneys will piggyback along that and then go after the insurance company for the reimbursement, then I don't see why we wouldn't make this a priority going forward.
Okay.
But I think we just got to kind of get all our ducks in a row and make sure that's all going to happen, because we certainly don't want to leave the money on the table from the insurance company
Sure.
if the insurance company is standing there saying we're willing to pay for the reimbursement. So
Okay,
I think
so-
we need to.
Okay, so what I'll do is I think I will not go to city council next week, and then I'm out of town for 3 weeks. But if at the end of September, for some reason, you guys decide not to proceed, then I'll go to city council at that point. Does that sound reasonable?
Totally.
Okay.
Absolutely. And we'll try and move quickly on those quotes. And I know that this is it's been going on for a while. I saw the email chain, so that's why.
Well, and let me just ask this question of, I think David and Sharon and Keith that are all on here, is does trying to figure out a way to proceed with the replacement of the signs or the repair of the signs, does any of that give you guys any heartburn in terms of spending the money? I mean, I think if everybody says no, then we just need to figure out a way to button it all up and try to figure out a way to take a vote and move forward.
Okay.
But I think there's a couple of things that we need to see first before we do that.
Okay, I can also forward to you the name of the attorney we visited with back in April, the City of Houston attorney, who turned right around and delegated it to HPW after confirming that the city owned the wall. If you need his contact information.
Who is that? Randy Zamora?
Exactly,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah.
I spoke with Randy. Randy.
Yeah,
Excellent.
he's pretty reasonable.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. So we will move forward on those action items that I talked about and wait for the light sculpture for put that as a phase 2. Focus on the signs and try and get that in front of y'all for a vote ASAP. Okay.
I want to bring one additional thing up here, and I'm not quite sure where it falls in the scope of all of this. There is the issue of the maintenance of the roundabout, which is non-existent right now. I think the original WA nonprofit had an agreement with the city that once they installed the lighting structures and the neighborhood signs, that their obligation was to maintain that roundabout for a period of 5 years. And since that has now been, folded and absorbed by the city, I'm not sure that I know there's no maintenance that goes on in and around that roundabout. And so as another item, if we wanted to look at something, would also be, the maintenance of that roundabout. And that is, the trees need to be thinned out and trimmed. I mean, there's benches and trash receptacles that have been destroyed or removed, or for whatever reasons, it just doesn't look like it did 5 or 7 years ago. And so I think there's another component here which we could look at also taking on. I've also heard that there might be another third party, and that being TERS 5, that has considered entering into kind of a maintenance agreement with Graystar to help try to maintain the beautification of that traffic circle. So I think that's something that we should all flush out in this process. If we're talking about bringing the roundabout back up to what it used to be, there's this maintenance component of not only the illumination of the lighting structures, but the beautification and the maintenance of the roundabout and the landscaping in and around that traffic circle. So
Yeah,
I think it's something we should also consider as well.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. The city has, adopt a Esplanade programs. So I think, this would adopt a traffic circle program should.
And I think that's how they addressed it originally, was through the Adopt an Esplanade program.
Okay.
So, it's something we could go back and look at, but I just think that, as we're talking about the roundabout and investing funds down there, bringing the lighting structures back is great. Replacing the signs and repairing the signs is great, but also dealing with the landscaping and the park nature of what they originally created 10 years ago, I think is something that we should also take a look at as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. All right, if there are no more questions or comments on the way we're on about, I'm going to move on to our file.
I think Marcia's got, Marcia, you have a question?
Hey, Marcia, yes.
Marcia? You're on mute.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah. Only that I've reached out to Graystar, walked over there and talked with their leasing agent, who is a very nice person. You know, their corners look beautiful. Obviously, Graystar is not going to let that yard get out of pocket. So I think, you know, to Mark's comment, that should all be rolled in because Graystar does a great job making sure those corners look pretty with that stuff. So thank you, Mark, for noticing that.
Yeah.
Who, besides the leasing community manager, do y'all have another contact?
Yes. We have a contact pretty high up at Graystar.
Okay.
Okay. Wonderful. All right, I'm going to move on to our projections. Okay. So let me see. Can y'all see my cursor? So we ended the fiscal, oh, wow, this is cutting it off. I didn't notice that. So we ended the fiscal year, you can see right here at the bottom of fiscal year 23 with 122,000 was the amount that was generated by the parking benefit district. 81,000 went to the city. So we are looking at a meter revenue projection for 2024 of about $300,000. Once we carve out our expenses, which is for our operations and maintenance and credit card processing, we are left with a gross profit. We expect next year, June 30th, to be left with about $242,000, of which 96,000 will remain with the city and 145 is projected to go to the Washington Parking Benefit District. These are our projections based on, you know, data taken from 2013. I'll give you the budget in about 2 slides that gives you more detailed actuals and what we look at spending, what we spent last year as well. Does anyone have any questions on this pro forma? Okay. Just to give you an idea of what's been going on, our meter revenue, you can see December of 2022 went from 24,000. In July of 23, we were at 26,000. So we've been pretty steady. We're averaging about 4,200 transactions a month. Our average transaction for the month of July was $5.76, and we've got about 330 expired meter citations for July. Oops, sorry. My computer's like reacting slowly today. So our average monthly citations in FY21, it was 271. In FY22, FY21 was also coming out of COVID. FY22 was also coming out of COVID, 243. FY23, 307 citations average on a monthly basis. Now you can see the big difference on our meter transactions. So FY21, we're averaging about 2,300 transactions a month. And now in FY23, we're almost at 4,700 transactions a month. So there's a lot of activity going on in the Washington Parking Benefit District. We have a lot of residential permit parking zones in the area, and we do tow there every weekend. I see the guys out every weekend. I live in Woodcrest, so I see, I drive by, I see them out there. They are really, you know, writing citations and taking care of the area. But you can see in July to September, well, this is actually just the month of July, we had 68 tows for just the month of July. All right, our next slide is the Washington budget. So this is our actuals. This is what we've banked. You know, we have to pay sales tax on meter revenues, so that gets carved out. All the other fees that were on our pro forma, like credit card fees, the operations and maintenance of the parking meters. This is what is actually netted out and put in the bank for the Washington PBD. This does not include any city's portion, the 40% that the city gets. So in FY23, we started off the year with $204,000 and we earned $119,000. That was the projection for the whole year. We budgeted $98,000 to spend, but we only spent almost 45,000. So that was a combination of flock. We put out 12 flock cameras, and we had some enhanced security overtime with HPD on 2 events. So we had Cinco de Mayo and St. Patrick's Day. So that was about $45,000 that we spent. So the remaining budget, as of June 30th this year, we had $279,000 in the bank for Washington PBD to spend on any public infrastructure projects. So we are now in the new fiscal year. We're in month 2 of the new fiscal year, and we're starting off with $279,000 in the bank. We are projecting, again, $119,000. This will, you know, change over time. We have budgeted $90,000 for the PBD to spend on projects. Now, that can change. If we decide that we want to do a bigger project, what we've got is $279,000 in the bank to spend this fiscal year. So if the PBD committee decides that they want to spend all of it on one grand project, we can take a vote and the budget can be adjusted. But for now, we are projecting $90,000. We do have a recurring cost of $30,000 on the flock cameras. So that is going to definitely go. We're definitely going to spend the $30,000. The other 50 and the 10,000 that we have as project and miscellaneous is just something that we kind of filled in the expenditure.
Well, Maury, I think the $50,000 is something that we set aside for any enhanced HPD security that we might want to access.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Yes, I'm sorry.
On weekends that we felt it might be necessary to assist in moving patrons along, you know, on one of these weekends that, you know, one of these super drunken holidays that falls on a weekend like a Friday night or a Saturday night.
Yeah, and I think the next one coming up that we might want to be concerned about is Halloween, maybe, I think. I'm not sure there's anything before then, unless there's some Astros. But even if there is Astro stuff going on, HPD is going to be all hands on deck in downtown. They won't be able to devote any time to us. So a heads up on that. Now, we did spend also $143 on the Washington walk audit. So the walk audit is still underway, I believe. And the PBD funded tablets. So we purchased them through the city contract, which was, you know, pretty decent amount. $143. So at the end of the next fiscal year, June 30th, 2024, if we spend only the $90,000, then we anticipate that the Washington PBD will have almost $400,000 banked. But if we spend more than the 90, then of course that money is going to be adjusted. So this is kind of the budget, what you're looking at. Any questions? Okay, I think so at this point, we have an open forum. I think let's take public comments first. Did anyone want to do any public comments, or were we all here for the WOW roundabout discussion? Was there anything else to add?
Mari, I have what Sergeant Dorton emailed me about the cameras. I'm not sure what happened to him today, but I can share what he...
Okay, yeah. Why don't Melanie, why don't you give us an update on the the PBD paid for 12 flock cameras to be placed on Washington, going from Westcott all the way down to, I believe they go all the way down to Shepherd, maybe all the way past Shepherd.
I think it's Sawyer is where they go to.
Sawyer, yes, correct, Sawyer. And the flock cameras are capturing license plates of all the vehicles that drive by. And HPD is the only division that has access to their database, the flock camera database. So they can use it as a tool to help them track down folks who are engaged in illicit activities. And, it could be someone committed a crime in Alief and they find their vehicle driving through Washington. The way the flock camera system is set up, HPD can look at all these and they can track people down. It's a crime fighting tool. It's not the reason they catch criminals, but it certainly helps them find people quicker. And the first camera that we installed one camera, I think it was in December of last year, and within a week, HPD let us know that they were able to apprehend someone based on there was a mugging or a carjacking. I can't recall the exact details, but they were basically able to apprehend someone because they found them driving through Washington from one camera that picked them up. So Sergeant Dorton leads that for HPD, and he was supposed to provide us an update today, but something happened to HPD, So Melanie, why don't you let us know what Sergeant Dorton sent over to you?
Yeah, he says the cameras have been an amazing help and assist officers with proactive arrests and investigations on a daily basis. The cameras have assisted officers with dozens of arrests, the recovery of illegally possessed firearms, recovering stolen vehicles, capturing wanted persons, criminal investigations, and much more. They are an amazing tool to have on the Washington corridor. Additionally, if something were to happen and they are there, the data is there for investigations. If there is a major scene to occur without the cameras present, our chances for leads would be severely limited. Thank you all for your continued partnership.
So one of the things that the committee, thank you, Melanie, for giving that to us. One of the challenges that we've had with this is that, HPD had a meeting and I was one of the stakeholders there, and we were all kind of saying, what is our version of the ROI for this? Like, how do we know? And HPD, they're reluctant to say, well, we solved this many carjackings, or we solved this many muggings, or this many burglaries, because they say it's just a piece of the puzzle, the flock camera. So it's very difficult for them to say that, well, you've solved, this many crimes, because the rest of us are like, well, we're spending money, so we want to know what is the ROI. It's challenging for them to come back with that. And I will ask Sergeant Dorton to come back at our next meeting, because he explains it much better than I do. He's the expert in this. But we can ask him to come to a future meeting to discuss that. But I do know that.
And I want to interject something here, Mari, and I've been pushing back on this for a number of months. I'm happy that Sergeant Dorton's got the platitudes of how great and wonderful the flock cameras are and how great and wonderful, it helps in solving crime. I've not ever asked for any specific information regarding the type of activity that they receive and the type of notifications they receive off these flock cameras. What I want to know, and one of the reasons that we installed them in the Washington Avenue corridor, was the belief that with all of the nighttime economy that's here, there are a number of people passing through this Washington Avenue corridor who are engaged in nefarious activities. And so we were looking for an objective measure of that type of activity, not the subjective nature of, well, I think it's this and some other neighbor thinks it's that. So for them to say it's great and wonderful to have this stuff and helps them solve crime, that's not what I want to hear. I want to hear them say, hey, you know what? We got 50 incidences last month, or 125 incidents or hits off of something. I don't care what they are, but I want to know that we're getting hits off of people that are driving through this Washington Avenue corridor that are people of interest. Because, we've got to make a decision. And listen, we're not going to necessarily take them out, but I want some more objective analysis or presentation, not just this platitudes about, well, it helps us fight crime. I get it. There's over 400 of these, stuck across the city from HPD, and many hundreds more, in private communities, West University, Bel Air, the Memorial Villages, Katy, Pearland, they're all over the city of Houston. But what I want to know is, hey, what are we getting for the investment that we made in the cameras along Washington Avenue? 20 hits, 50 hits, 100 hits, 0. You don't have to tell me that they're warrants for, people, felony warrants, or their, Amber Alerts, or whatever that might be. I want something more than, hey, it's a nice to have and thank you for putting them out there. I'm
Yeah.
going to push back on Sergeant Dorton.
Yeah. And we did at the last stakeholder meeting that they had. There were several various, partners that have, put forward an investment in the flock cameras, and I think there were many people saying the same thing that you were saying. So we will keep trying to get that answer for you.
I mean, you've heard the pushback on the shot spotter. I don't think anybody's suggesting that we get rid of shot. I mean, there's people suggesting that we get rid of shot spotter, but I think it's, I don't think it's an unreasonable ask for us to have some more quantifiable, objective data put in front of us that says, we're glad to have it because we get this from them.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. We will go back. Okay. So that's a flock camera update. At this point, we've got an open forum. So do I have any other comments or questions, feedback, concern from anyone on the call today?
I was going to ask you if you would let me share my screen. I wanted to show something that I have been tracking for the last couple of years, which I think is, and I don't know how to do this necessarily.
Well, I'm not sharing my screen anymore, so.
Okay, let me.
Melanie, do I need to give him permission, or?
Next to the leave button, there's a button that says share.
Oh, the red leave
Here you
button.
go.
Yeah.
Let's try. Yeah, it's not. I don't know how to do this in Microsoft Teams.
Do you want to email it to me?
I can. Give me 2 seconds. And it's not that important. It's just what it is a give me a second here. Just a graphical representation of. Let me pull this up.
While Mark is doing that, I've got a kind of a question that was raised from the owner of Teal Trumpo represent. He asked me the question that he's got 2 parking spots that's been taken over by the reconstruction of their street. And he wants to know if there's a way for the city to kind of, for the landlord to kind of reclaim that. Because right now, I think it got converted into part of the street, so it's kind of it's kind of hard to tell where the lines are at.
What location is this again? I'm sorry.
This is in the building of Teal Trumpo on Shepherd.
So it's going to be around the 700 block of Shepherd, I believe.
Okay.
And I think what his concern, David, correct me if I'm wrong, is that when they rebuilt Shepherd, it's a strip center with very limited parking, and off of Shepherd Drive, there are 2 curb cuts and 2 entrances into that parking lot that don't necessarily really need to be there. They don't need, and I think one of those curb cuts, is this what you're talking about, David?
Yes,
is
exactly,
taking up parking space that otherwise could be dedicated to that small little parking lot and that strip center. And those curb cuts are literally, probably no more than 50 feet apart. So there's 2 entrances into a parking lot that really don't need to be there, because there's one from Shepherd and then there's one from Fagan there, but they installed another one, and it's kind of taking up parking that could otherwise be utilized by that strip center. And so he's trying to figure out, is there a way that the city could come in and eliminate one of those curb cuts?
Oh, wow, that's that's going to be city engineer or traffic engineer.
Right. But when you look at it, it's kind of ridiculous. I mean, there's 2 entrances to a parking lot that are no more than 20 yards apart.
Okay. 700 Shepherd, you said?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just trying to look at it online. We'll have to, it's going to be one of the engineers. I don't have any control over that, but I could definitely figure out who they need to speak with.
Okay.
And
And I
send
can
that-
give you Ricardo's contact information if you'd like.
Okay. Yep. If you can send me Ricardo's contact.
Yep.
Okay. We'll get back to Ricardo then.
So I sent you that. Did you get that email, Mario?
Just got
The
it.
other comment I had was, we got this crowd gathering on, in front of Forget Me Not. You know, they're paying notorious amounts for parking.
Mhm.
I've always questioned, well, there is street parking there they're not utilizing. I'm not sure if there's enough signage to tell them that you could park there on the streets. I mean, that's another way that we could generate revenue
Yeah.
from that crowd.
Yeah, we can look into that. Can y'all see my screen now? I did want to let y'all know, Vinod Ramani also called me a couple weeks ago. He's trying to do some cleanup work around Forget Me Not in particular. And so we didn't even realize that Tuesday nights was a big night at these clubs because our late shift does not stay till that late on Tuesday nights. So we've been trying to clean some things up over there, and I believe he's trying to work some deals with his tenants to get them to, I guess, reduce what they're doing as some kind of those events that they're holding on Tuesdays and whatnot to foster some improvements within the neighborhood, that some negative impact from his venues. So I did want to give you that update. We at Park Houston are doing some overtime work with our officers to help mitigate some of the parking issues that happen, particularly on Tuesdays and I believe Wednesday nights. I can't remember. Tuesday nights. Can y'all see? Mark, is there a chart?
Yeah,
showing?
I just wanted to put this out there because the whole point of this, I tracked the mixed beverage gross receipts along Washington Avenue, and this really is between Durham and TC Jester. But one of the things that I've been concerned about is as the mixed beverage gross receipts continue to decline, will we see a decline in the meter revenue, that we pick up off of Washington Avenue. And, I think, what this graph is showing us right now is that even though, the mixed beverage gross receipts have declined from, about $4.5 million, last July to slightly under $1.8 million this past June, meter revenue has continued to be strong amidst that decline. And so, I think that's also a testament to the fact that if we were to look at the numbers, we would probably see that there is more utilization on the eastern end of Washington Avenue as some of that development begins to be built out. And so we're getting a little bit more diversification of the meter revenue and not being so necessarily tied to the bar activity between Durham and TC Jester.
Yeah, we have seen more activity on weekends on the eastern side. I don't know if Hughes Hangar is like an events place now, but we have been seeing that there is quite a bit of activity happening around there. 2000 block.
Right. And I guess because, all I'm trying to show is that, for a period of time, the parking benefit district was dependent upon the nighttime economy between Durham and TC Jester, and those two trends track each other. But since, about June, July, or August of last year, as, the mixed beverage gross receipts in that 4-block area have continued to decline, the parking benefit revenue has maintained or actually increased. So I think that's a positive thing, and it shows the diversification of the meter revenue along Washington Avenue, and that it's not just so dependent upon what's happening on a 4-block stretch.
Yeah, no, that's good. Okay, very good. Thank you for sharing, Mark.
Yep.
Okay, do I have any other comments or questions? Or we've got 3 minutes left. All right, well, thank you all for joining us today. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you guys so much. I will be in touch. I got the emails from you, Michelle, so we'll get to work on that insurance reimbursement and the quotes for the signs. And committee, I will reach out to you by email. And if we need to regroup again for a quick meeting to discuss, I'm happy to do that for the next 2 weeks.
Sounds good. Thanks
All
for
right.
everybody's time.
Sorry for my typos, Maria, in my emails. It's
Okay,
hard to
fine.
type with a broken wrist.
I'm sorry.
It's
Thank you,
okay.
guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you,
Uh-huh.
Melanie.